Hello, this is Opinion Radar, and today I'm kicking off a deep dive into a tool that's been turning heads in the small shop community. As a regular pen turner, I'm constantly battling fine dust and stray chips that can ruin a project or a clean bench. Finding a compact, budget-friendly solution that actually fits my 12-inch midi lathe has been on my wish list for a while. So when the Dust Right Lathe dust collection system landed on my desk, I was excited to give it a run-through. In this video, I'll walk you through my first impressions, how the setup fits into a typical hobbyist workflow, and what you can expect in terms of performance and durability. Stick around as we break down the details and see whether this little addition lives up to the hype before we jump right into the hands-on test. When I first laid eyes on the Dust Right Lathe dust collection system, the first thing that grabbed me was how it slides right onto my 12-inch midi lathe like it was born there. The package comes with a 9-inch dust scoop, a sturdy port boom arm, and a set of hose clamps that bolt into place without needing any special tools. At $61, it feels surprisingly affordable for a piece of equipment that claims to pull dust and chips straight away from the workpiece. The scoop itself is a nice size, big enough to catch the bulk of shavings but not so massive that it gets in the way of my turning tools. The boom arm swivels smoothly, letting me angle the collection point exactly where the dust erupts, and the whole assembly feels solid enough to survive the occasional bump when I'm swapping blanks. Overall, the design strikes a good balance between functionality and simplicity, which is exactly what I look for in a shop add-on. Putting the system to work on a typical day in my home shop instantly shows why I love it. I spend most of my evenings turning pens from resin, wood, and even acrylic pipe, and each material creates a different kind of mess. Resin and acrylic tend to spray tiny particles that coat everything, while wood shavings cling to the bench. With the Dust Right scoop position just behind the tool post, most of those particles get sucked straight into my shop vac before they can settle. I've also tried it with a small sanding drum on a mini lathe, and the suction holds enough to keep the air clear while I sand a bowl or a spindle. Because the arm can be swung out of the way in a second, changing tools or swapping blanks never feels like a chore. The system basically lets me keep the workspace tidy enough to actually see what I'm doing, which is a huge confidence booster when I'm experimenting with new designs. The first thing that impressed me was how painless the installation was. All the hardware slides onto the lathe's existing brackets, and the hose clamps click into place, so I was up and running in under 10 minutes. No drilling, no welding, just a quick tighten and I'm good. The build quality feels surprisingly robust. The metal arm has a nice, solid feel and the plastic scoop is reinforced where it meets the steel frame, so I haven't noticed any wobble even after moving it around a lot. In terms of performance, the system captures the majority of fine dust and chips, especially from resin and acrylic projects where airborne particles are a real nuisance. The suction works well with a standard 4-inch shop vac, and the boom arm lets me angle the intake so it never interferes with my cutting tools. For a price under $70, that level of effectiveness and durability is hard to beat in the hobby lathe market. That said, the system isn't flawless, and a few quirks kept me from giving it a perfect score. The hose that comes with the kit is a bit on the thin side and doesn't match the standard 4-inch diameter of most shop vacs, so I had to print or improvise a small adapter to get a tight seal, a minor hassle that added an extra half hour to the setup. The mouth of the scoop is also relatively small, which means it struggles with larger dust loads when I'm doing a big sanding job or blowing off a bulk wood turn. I noticed a noticeable amount of dust escaping in those situations. The arm, while sturdy, feels a little heavy, making it a bit cumbersome to swing out of the way if I need fast access to the lathe bed. Finally, because it's optimized for mini lathes, it won't replace a full-size dust extractor for someone who does heavy production work. Those are the main trade-offs to keep in mind before you buy. After a few weeks of using the Dust Right on my regular pen turning schedule, I can honestly say it has become a permanent fixture on my bench. The first time I ran a batch of resin pens, I was amazed at how clean the surrounding area stayed, The fine powder that normally coats every surface was almost completely gone, which saved me a lot of time wiping down the lathe and my work table. I've also taken it on the road to a friend's makerspace, and because the whole thing weighs less than a brick, it fits nicely in the back of my car without requiring a dedicated rack. The durability feels on point. After moving it around 3 times and taking a few accidental bumps, the arm still swivels smoothly and the clamps stay tight. For the $61 price tag, I consider it a solid investment that pays for itself in the hours saved from cleaning and the peace of mind knowing the shop air stays clearer, especially when I'm experimenting with new resin dyes that can be a real mess. Bottom line, if you're a hobbyist who spends most of your time turning pens, making small spindles, or sanding mini workpieces, the Dust Right Lathe Dust Collection System is a practical upgrade that fits right into a tight bench space without breaking the bank. It does a solid job of pulling the bulk of dust and chips away from the tool area, which translates into a cleaner workspace and less time spent cleaning up after each session. Just be prepared to spend a few minutes fabricating an adapter for the hose and remember that it's best suited for light to moderate dust loads rather than industrial scale sanding. For the price, the balance of build quality, ease of installation, and effective suction makes it a worthwhile addition to any small shop setup. In short, I give it a strong recommendation for anyone who wants to keep their lathe area tidy and breathe easier while they turn. If you're ready to keep your bench spotless and your turns flawless, smash that like button and subscribe. We'll keep the dust-free gear drops coming. Drop a comment with your own dustbuster hacks, and join the crew that never lets shavings slow us down. Game on and stay sharp every week.